Hello, fellow Hyperboreans. Dave here, developer of the Hyperborea system for Foundry VTT with another quick demo from release 1.1.1. The latest release has two new features in it that I just wanted to, well, provide a very brief walkthrough of so you can see basically what could be done with these features. So I've got a few items over on the right there that you can see, just some magic items that I just pulled out of the book. The first feature that we'll talk about is the ability to have an effect on an item which is then applied to the actor, where an actor is either a character or an NPC. Let's just say character. So the effect is applied to the character. So, and that's actually standard functionality within Foundry. All I had to do was enable the effects on the item sheet. So if I open up Gauntlets of Ogre Power here, you'll see what I'm talking about. All items now have an effects tab, same as the character sheet already had previously. So the effects tab, and it looks exactly the same too, and you can then create an effect which would be applied to its owner, the item's owner, that is to say. So as you can see, I created this passive effect. I gave it the same name as the item, and the reason is it shows up as this effect on the character sheet. So it makes it easier to quickly understand what the source of that effect. And if I edit this, you will see, you can see transfer effect to actor is checked. That's the default behavior. So you can actually apply statuses to the tokens, which is kind of cool. I didn't with this one, but I did with these other the Ring of Invisibility. So you'll see that momentarily. Don't have a duration on there, of course. And then what we do is for Gauntlets of Ogre Power, it doesn't actually bump up the character's strength, but it does give them modifiers as if they have an 18 strength by default. So I have given them the modifiers for an 18 strength. Now, one caveat here is if the character already has an 18 strength and I put on these Gauntlets of Ogre Power, the modifiers are different. I believe, if I remember correctly, it just adds +1 to the attack and damage, and an extra 8% on strength of feet, something like that. Anyways, so if you have a character who already has an 18 strength and they want to wear Gauntlets of Ogre Power, you as the GM would need to modify the effects here appropriately to have the right numbers. But as it is right here, we're just override the existing modifier, and we're making the attack modifier. You can see these variables here, system.attributes.strength or str.attack mod, damage mod, test is test of strength, feat is feat of strength. So that's what these variables are, and we just override them with this. You can do, again, this is all built-in functionality of Foundry, but you can do an add and override are probably going to be the two you're going to use the most often, I would guess, at least with the little bit of testing I've done. So I did this. I don't need to submit any changes, and if we look at, I have already given it to Garrick. So if you see here, he's got Gauntlets of Ogre Power on, and then what you'll see is you see his 15 strength, but he has the modifiers of someone with 18 strength. Now here's another interesting feature is because he has extraordinary strength, that should be giving him an additional 8% on top of that. Well, because the item was overriding that, what it was previously, to make it a 32, what I really need to do is change the effect to make this a 40 now. And so let's look at the effect, because the effect is right here coming from the Gauntlets of Ogre Power, as you can see. And so first of all, what I can do is, let's say I take the gauntlets off or have them stolen from me. I can just do that. I hit the little X box, the little X button, I should say. You can see now it's an inactive effect. And if I go back over here, you can see these are my original numbers. And this 24 is correct for the extraordinary strength class feature. So the system actually retains the original values so that it can revert them when you disable an effect. So I re-enable the effect and it bounces back to the 2, 3, 5, and 32. Now if I want to change that 32, I would, let's see. I'm going to do it on the item, but then I'm pretty sure I also have to do it in the effect. It's kind of funny that way. But if we go into here and edit this, and since my character is a little bit special, I'm just going to change that to a 40. I'm going to submit the change. And we do that. Now if I look at this, yeah, see, it still says 32. That's kind of what I thought. And if I remove it and look at it, it's still 32. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to submit the change, and then I'm going to apply it. Let's see. Yep, and there we go, 2, 3, 5, and 40. So it's just a matter of, you know, tweaking the effect over here. I did it on the item as well. It probably wasn't necessary, to be honest, but I did it just to be safe. So again, I went into edit, and I went into effects, and I did that, and I changed it to 40. Like I said, though, that didn't actually, as you saw, it did not actually change the character until I went into the effects tab and did it here. This is where I had to change it to 40 in order to make it really take effect, and now it's got the right numbers. Okay, so that's Gauntlets of Ogre Power. Now let's look at Ring of Invisibility. Now Ring of Invisibility doesn't actually have any effects, as you can see right here. What it does do is it applies the invisible status condition to the token. So that's kind of cool. So what we have here, and you can see Niella, she has the Ring of Invisibility. You can see her token is a special color because she's currently invisible. So if I look again over here, you know, we've got the Ring of Invisibility, and under effects, she's got invisible. Again, so here I did not name the effect the same as the Ring of Invisibility. I just have the effect named invisible. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You can see the source says Ring of Invisibility anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter if I didn't have to do the other one and call it Gauntlets of Ogre Power. I could have just said increased strength mods or something like that for the effect name. But in any case, Ring of Invisibility, and you know, like I said, it applies the invisible effect. If I take the ring off just by doing that, now you can see Niella is visible. You see the token changed here. If we go back in, we reapply that, and she did change color, so you can see that she's invisible there. So that's an example of the token condition being affected or being applied by an item. Now, if I look at Ring of Protection, this is another special case, or a little bit unique, because Ring of Protection, it actually applies to your armor class and your DR, and it also changes your saving throws. So I had to do a couple of different things. First of all, be aware that armor class and damage reduction cannot be affected by an effect. They cannot be modified by an effect because they're automatically calculated based on the equipment that you're wearing, the armor, shield, or even magic items that might be affecting your armor class. So an effect being applied won't actually update the armor class. So if you have a protective item like a Ring of Protection, what you do is you create it as an armor type item, which you can see based on these fields on the left side here. You can see this was set up as an armor type item. So I went create item, and I went, you know, Ring of Protection, and I had armor type item to create the new item, and there it is. So I'll just delete that. And then I treat it as unarmored because it's not going to give you any weight, and it's going to give you going to leave your base move of 40 with an armor class of 2 and damage reduction of 2, as it says. And because it cannot be stacked with any other armor, therefore it's perfect as an armor item because the system will automatically treat it as armor, and you can only be wearing one set of armor. And what the system does, the system will actually let you equip 2 pieces of armor, but it will apply the better of the 2. So it basically ignores the other one. It doesn't stack them. So, and we'll show you that in just a second here. So 2 and 2, but also we've got effects because there's the +1 saving throw bonus. So for that one, I have to go into here and edit it. And you can see, first of all, I added a magic shield token effect. And so if you look at Alaric, he's the one wearing the ring. You can see he's got a little effect on his token. That's what that magic shield is coming from. And then also if I actually go into effects, you can see my saving throws are being modified, and we're actually reducing the target number of the saving throws. So we're adding a -1. So all 5 of the saving throws are part of this one effect. And you don't do +1, you have to do a -1, like I said, because you're actually lowering the target number. You're not adding a modifier to the die roll. So by reducing their saving throw target, it affects as a bonus. So I'll just go ahead and close that. And so we've got that there. Again, it's an armor type item, so it can be equipped or unequipped. And then when I look at Alaric here, So we go to combat, and you can see his armor class is listed as 0, and his saves are at 15 and 13 for the class bonus ones, but so 15, 13, 15, 13, 15, and there's the Ring of Protection. So the Ring of Protection assumes you're unarmored. So if I put on the studded armor, the system will let me do it, like I said, but it's not going to change the armor class because it's going to take the best of the whatever I have equipped. So if I do that, I equipped it, you see his armor class and his damage reduction did not change. There's 0 and 2 no matter what. And that's because the Agile, unarmored, that's a class ability. So that one actually does add a +1 when he's not armored, and you can see that that's working. It's acting like a shield, so it's stacking. Now that's a little bit on your honor because it is a shield, the system would allow you to apply this while you're wearing armor, even though the rules do not. So you're just expected to know the rules and know how to apply that correctly. Ring of Protection is treated as armor. When I take the ring off, you saw my armor class jump up to 7 and my damage reduction went from 2 down to 0. So that bumps my armor class back and forth. However, note that it did not change my saving throws. To change the saving throws, I need to go into effects, I need to look at this here, and I need to do that. And now when I take that off, you can see my saves are back to 16 and 14 instead of 15 and 13. So that's a really long-winded way of saying when you have an item that has multiple effects that might be applied in different ways, just be aware that removing that item might take a couple of different things. So in this case, I would have to unequip it as equipment because armor is treated that way. And I would also have to remove the effect in order to flip my saving throws back. And then when I put the ring back on, I have to apply the effect and I have to equip the item to make everything take, effect the way you want it to. But it does work, works great. You can see, we saw that his AC changed and everything, and you can see it's applying a little token icon there to indicate that he's protected. Totally optional, of course, but I was just experimenting with different things. So that is all about creating items with effects. And if you want to figure out those variables like the saving throws and all that jazz, honestly, the easiest way is if you go into the combat encounters and go into the settings here, you see these tracked resources. These are all the different variables and their proper dot-noted path to get to them. Like the wisdom bonus spell level 1. If you had an item that granted an extra bonus spell, you would want to use this variable and give it a value of 1 or +1 or something like that. The attributes dot strength, here's your attack mod, damage mod, feat of strength, test of strength. The value itself can even be modified. AC is in here, DR, and value is your actual armor class. But again, those are automatically calculated by the system, so you can't actually have effects applied to change those numbers. They're just going to get overridden and it doesn't work. But otherwise, yeah, and hit points are at the top here, HP.value. So all of these, this is a very easy way to find the information that you want. The other thing you can do is just consult the README file. So in my GitHub, if you go to the README file right down here, I've got a reference to system variables in this variables.md file. This is actually part of the installation, so you could find this file on your local hard drive if you're running the system locally. But otherwise, this file is out here in my GitHub, and this has common ones that can be used. Note that this uses the @ notation for dice roll formulas, so it's a little bit different. And be aware that typically instead of an @ you're going to do a system dot in front of anything here. But this gives you at least some documentation on what some of these variables do. So, if there's any questions, you can always post in the Hyperborea Discord. And I keep an eye on at least on the Hyperborea VTT channel. I keep an eye on that to provide support for it. So, let's see. The other item was the macro bar. So the macro bar is very simple. Essentially, your character sheet, take an item. Take your short bow, which right here is this short bow here. I could also add his hand axe, just drag it right down there, and there it is. It applies. Of course, the icons are very generic, but you mouse over it and you get the name of the item or the name of the effect. Here's Turning Undead for Niella, the cleric, and her warhammer. And this is the battle axe, and the acid arrow spell of Alaric, who is a warlock. So he's got all of these. And those are very simple. Once they're there, the system retains the ownership. That is to say, it knows who owns each item. So if I do a short bow and I do an attack, you're going to see posted over here that it was Alaric. There we go, Alaric the Frank. And if I do turning undead, you're going to know that that's Niella. Just like that. And same again, acid arrow is going to come from Carrick. Right there, acid arrow. So very simple. Nothing much to say about that. Just drag the item down here and it just works. And it works for NPCs too. Like if I pull up the skeleton and drag his crescent knife onto there. Now watch, it's not going to work. I don't think I've tested NPCs. Nope, it worked. Moon Priest skeleton, perfect. Yep, I had tested NPCs. Anyways, yeah, so it works for NPCs, monsters, as well as characters.